HelloGreedo's top 5 worst things in the Star Wars expanded universe. Number 5. Mount Sorrow. Nestled on the forest moon of Endor lives a self-aware, fully alive mountain. Mount Sorrow is sad. He's always sad, but that sadness has a flip side because, and you will never guess this, Mount Sorrow's tears have the power to cure your injuries, your illnesses. They have the power to cure your disease. He also has the power to blow people off of his summit with a gust of wind breath. Mount Sorrow appeared one time and one time only in issue 7 of the Ewoks comic book published in May 1986. Number 4. Zombies. Yep, zombies. To appeal to the modern craze of zombie worship, of course they threw zombies into Star Wars. Okay, so when earthly words like zombie or witch in the case of Sith witches are said in the Star Wars universe, I just kind of get taken out of the whole thing. Most everything in Star Wars has an inventive name, some good, some bad, but generally everything that is spoken is something you had never heard before, something new. So when I hear zombie or witch, I just kind of roll my eyes. What about zombie Gungans? Yes, zombie Gungans. In a 2003 comic titled The New Face of War, a colony of Gungans is wiped out by separatists. Some of them reanimate with no explanation and begin chomping. Death Troopers is a book where a prison barge is aimlessly floating through space, it's broken down, and they stumble upon a Star Destroyer that has been abandoned. That sounds like a cool idea, I like that so far. But when they board the Star Destroyer, they discover that it isn't really abandoned. It's populated by zombies, disease-ridden people who reanimate and begin attacking the boarding party. Maybe this is a nice little break from our normal Star Wars. Maybe it's a cool horror spin on what we love, but I just don't think it fits. Number 3. Boba Fett survives. Yes, Boba Fett survives the Sarlacc pit. It's described in a number of books: The Ordeal of Boba Fett, The Tale of Dengar, The Last One Standing, The Tale of Boba Fett, Tales of the Bounty Hunter, and Mandalorian Armor. Okay, so I guess this is canon, but just because it's canon doesn't mean I have to like it, right? It doesn't mean that everyone has to succumb to this level of fan appeasement. I guarantee this was an afterthought. It was never intended, probably never even questioned or thought about when Fett fell into the Sarlacc pit in Jedi. I kind of feel like this is the biggest example of fan service in the entire saga. The fans like Boba Fett. Okay, we'll just keep him alive. I really don't care if he has a jetpack or that his armor withstands stomach acid. His demise was great. Some fearful, powerful bounty hunter who captured our hero is reduced to nothing more than a candidate for the Darwin Awards. Number 2. The Emperor is still alive. Well, I guess not technically. See, in the expanded universe lore, the Emperor had an entire ship full of clones of himself, younger clones of himself. So the amazing act of self-sacrifice that Vader exhibits at the end of Return of the Jedi is rendered meaningless if you follow EU lore. And why would you follow EU lore in cases like this? You have such a powerful ending to the trilogy, and then some side story comes along and kind of smashes it. And then that basically forces Star Wars fans to take sides in a discussion. You have the film side, which is full of meaning, sacrifice, fatherhood, and closure. And then you have the EU side that, for no reason other than another example of fan service, and maybe a lack of vision, tells everyone that the Emperor is basically alive and well in thousands of bodies aboard a spaceship. I just think it's pretty dumb. Also, if you had an army of DNA replica supervillains, why wouldn't you use them like all the time? Number 1. Skippy the droid. You probably remember Skippy from A New Hope. Like me, you probably know this droid as R5-D4. I always assumed that it was just a coincidence that he blew his motivator, which in turn made Uncle Owen pick R2-D2 out of the Jawa lineup. But guess what? There's an explanation for why this happened. The EU has a habit of explaining shit that doesn't need to be explained. And boy oh boy, is this a shining example. So it's revealed that R5-D4, or Skippy if you want to call him that, can actually use the Force. Yep, that's right, a droid that can use the Force. Why? Because fuck it, that's why. So, why does Skippy need to use the Force? Well, it's explained in Star Wars Tales #1 that he uses the Force in Jabba's palace, so he doesn't spill the drinks that he's serving. Yep, a Force-using robot bartender. Isn't this fun? He then uses the Force to escape from Jabba's palace, and he purposefully gets captured by the Jawas because he has a vision that if Luke teams up with R2-D2, the Empire will eventually fall. So what was a simple coincidence now has some grand explanation that includes a Force-sensitive droid who doesn't want to spill drinks and has a dream that if he sacrifices himself, he will kickstart the downfall of the Galactic Empire. There's also another version of this story where R2-D2 sabotages Skippy the droid, purposefully detonating his motivator. Both of these are dumb. Sometimes shit just happens. Not everything needs to be explained. Not everything needs to be a part of some grand plan.
Always with you, it cannot be done.